May 1st, 2011, 30 minutes after midnight. In military terms, 0 dark 30. Navy SEALs are on a top-secret mission. Their target, America's most wanted, Osama bin Laden. This night brings to a close the biggest manhunt ever known.
I don't think the CIA or the military had any idea how difficult it would be to apprehend this guy.
Yet what the movies tell us about the CIA's manhunt is not the full story.
Between May of '98 and May of '99, we had 2 opportunities to capture him and 8 different opportunities to kill him.
We hear from the covert team who tracked bin Laden down.
You know you're fighting against time, and you know that people are going to die.
To reveal the declassified truth behind the 15-year pursuit that brought America's most wanted to justice. A Friday morning in New York. Thousands of people are downtown. But this is a day unlike any other. Because the hunt for the world's most wanted man begins now. Terrorists attack the World Trade Center.
We heard a tremendous explosion. The entire building shook.
But this is not 9/11. It's 8 years earlier. A 1,500-pound truck bomb rips a 100-foot hole through 4 levels of World Trade Center Tower 1. The blast is designed to topple one 110-story tower into the other, potentially killing tens of thousands of people. It has failed. But 6 are dead, and the injured number more than 1,000. At first, no one has any idea who could have executed such an attack. Years of investigation reveal those responsible are from a terrorist organization called Al-Qaeda. Little is known about them. This is their very first strike outside a Muslim nation.
It helped to put Al-Qaeda on the map. What it helped to do most of all was to convince at least the intelligence community that a threat within the United States could involve more than just a shooting or a kidnapping.
At the CIA, an order comes in from President Clinton. Find out everything there is to know about this new terror group. Senior analyst Mike Scheuer is instructed to head up a small team dedicated to the task.
I was fortunate enough to be appointed the chief in late 1995, and we set up and began operations in December of 1995.
Scheuer assigns his new unit a code name, Alex Station, named after his then 2-year-old son. Alex Station is a first, unlike any other unit in the CIA, because it's dedicated to just one single mission. Tracking down a man they suspect is Al-Qaeda's leader, Osama bin Laden.
It was a very different organization. It was the first time we were set up with a significant amount of manpower and funding to look at one person.
The team sets up at the CIA headquarters. Scheuer's recruitment ad has unexpected results.
It was women who came forward to be interviewed who applied for the jobs. Even when we were very small, when we had 10 or 12 people, probably 7 or 8 of them were women.
Cindy Storer, an expert on Afghanistan, works with Alex Station from the very beginning.
I was the communication with the policymakers, including the president, about what's going on in the world that relates to terrorism. The idea of the Counter-Terrorist Center was that your analysts and your operations officers being in the same place, having access to the same information, literally being able to talk over the cubicles to each other. So there was a lot of synergy.
Very quickly, Shoya's close-knit female team builds a special rapport.
We got very close. I mean, these are my sisters in arms.
On the inside, they earn the nickname, the Sisterhood, and a reputation for excellence.
Women were extraordinary. It's only half jokingly. Usually I say, you know, if I could have, I would have put a sign up that said, "No men need apply."
From the very beginning, the CIA's mission was clear. Understand bin Laden and decide if he's a real threat to the United States. They start by methodically trawling the CIA's existing database. Very quickly, a picture unfolds.
We found out we had a great deal of information, particularly about bin Laden's family and its influence within Saudi Arabia and its economic power and geographic reach.
The database reveals bin Laden is the son of a Saudi billionaire. But then at the age of 22, something happens that shapes his future. The Soviet Union invades Afghanistan. Like thousands of young Muslim men, Osama bin Laden travels across the globe to support the Afghan Mujahideen freedom fighters.
He showed up as sort of the representative of his very, very wealthy family, visiting clinics, visiting wounded Mujahideen, writing checks for their families.
It's the height of the Cold War, and America and the Mujahideen share a common enemy.
We didn't pay an extraordinary amount of attention to him because he was on the side of the angels at that time. He was killing Soviets.
But then Alex Station's Sisterhood uncovers something alarming. Bin Laden is not like most Afghan freedom fighters. He's gaining his own followers and taking things a step further.
There's this group of Arabs out there, and they're not like the rest of the Afghan resistance. You know, if you go down this road and you're not welcome there, they shoot before they ask questions. They attack aid workers. And then you start to hear these stories about who's involved. Well, bin Laden's there.
Declassified documents reveal that from around 1985, bin Laden goes from freedom fighter to terrorist. He begins to fund terror cells in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan. By 1993, he funds New York's World Trade Center bomb and is thrown out of both Saudi Arabia and the Sudan. In 1996, the Sisterhood trace him to Afghanistan. Here, he pairs up with an extremist regime, the Taliban. They support his radical views and provide a safe haven for his terrorist funding operations.
But the question was he just the financier, or was he involved operationally?
In less than a year, the Alex Station team would find out. They have some extraordinarily good luck. What they call a walk-in, an insider from a training camp in Sudan, simply walks into the American embassy, ready to talk.
He turned out to be an extraordinarily important individual in telling us about how Al-Qaeda was organized, how it was financed, how it acquired weaponry, that it was looking for biological and nuclear types of weapons.
What the walk-in tells them moves Osama bin Laden beyond financier. He's instigating missions of his own, organizing training regimes and writing handbooks for bombings and assassinations. He's selecting teams to plant bombs on planes, even to crash small aircraft into the CIA's own headquarters. And it's bin Laden himself who comes up with the name Al-Qaeda, Arabic for the base.
Calling it Al-Qaeda in a way, I mean, is indicative of his sort of ambition. He calls it, this is the base, this is an organization. It has a system wherein fighters can arrive through Pakistan or through Afghanistan and find their way to the fight. There's a pipeline, and he is largely responsible for putting that sort of structure in place.
Shoya's team have uncovered something truly alarming. Osama bin Laden has a master plan. From his refuge in Afghanistan, he's setting up Terrorism Incorporated to turn violent jihad into a global phenomenon.
We were very sure that Al-Qaeda was an organization the like of which we had never seen before in terms of manpower, focus, discipline, and geographic reach.
Then, as if to leave no doubt, in August 1996, 5 years before 9/11, bin Laden officially declares war on America.
It was not rocket science to figure out that this man was deadly serious. He was telling us, we're coming after you.
We knew they were planning a big attack, but we didn't know what or where.
Alex Station decides they have to make the first move. And in May 1998, an opportunity arrives. The Sisterhood team gains reliable intelligence on Osama bin Laden's whereabouts. They prepare a plan to capture him. The plan requires President Clinton's approval. Despite the CIA warning of a growing threat from Al-Qaeda, the president gets cold feet.
We had had an opportunity to kidnap Osama bin Laden in May of 1998, and the policymakers turned it down because they were afraid he would die and we would be blamed for assassination. At least that was their reason at the time.
The CIA see this as a missed opportunity, but the White House is simply not prepared to risk an international incident. The Sisterhood are reduced to warning President Clinton it's just a matter of time before bin Laden strikes. And strikes big. Suicide bombers drive a 2,000-pound truck bomb into the American embassy. 212 people are dead. Around 4,000 wounded are trapped within the rubble. Less than 10 minutes later, over 400 miles away, another explosion at an American embassy is timed to maximize the chaos. Here, 11 people die. A further 85 are injured. Al-Qaeda claims responsibility for both attacks. But the worst is yet to come. Bin Laden himself has declared this is just the beginning. At the CIA, there's frustration.
I remember the week before the bombings in '98, I had written something just internal talking about what I thought was Al-Qaeda's ability to do multiple simultaneous attacks, just as a way of giving some sense of what kind of threat we might be facing. And I got this, response back. You can't say that. There's no way you can say that. You don't have any evidence for that. Of course, I had tons of evidence for it. It's just that the people who were the establishment, so to speak, they didn't look at that evidence. We knew we were 10 years behind on following this issue. I mean, we could feel it, and we were playing catch up all the time.
The Sisterhood try to pick up the trail, but bin Laden knows he is a hunted man. After the Africa bombings, everything goes quiet. Bin Laden simply disappears.
After the bombings of the embassies, they became much more security conscious. Not staying too long in any one place, sending out 2 or 3 convoys going in different directions. So it became increasingly hard over the years to really pin down his location.
Osama bin Laden, from the beginning, was going to be a difficult target to go after. He was a practiced clandestine operator.
He was quite good at hiding. He stops communicating by cell phone or by phone call. He relies on this network of couriers. He's basically communicating in a medieval way, almost, to protect himself.
In Kenya, the Sisterhood turned to their informants. Just 2 weeks after the Africa bombings, their efforts pay off. The informants reveal that bin Laden is heading towards a maze of Al-Qaeda training camps at a town called Host.
We developed intelligence from several sources that bin Laden was going to travel from Kandahar city to Host. And he was going to meet with Pakistanis and various other kind of Islamist fighters there.
This time, President Clinton agrees to go after bin Laden. He gives the go-ahead for a massive missile strike. Codename Operation Infinite Reach.
Today, I ordered our armed forces to strike at terrorist-related facilities in Afghanistan and Sudan. Our target was terror. Our mission was clear: to strike at the network of radical groups affiliated with and funded by Osama bin Laden, perhaps the preeminent organizer and financier of international terrorism in the world today.
Dozens of Al-Qaeda terrorists are killed. But what about bin Laden?
As it turned out, the information we had was good, but bin Laden at the last moment decided to go to Kabul, and we, of course, missed him.
To the CIA, it's a huge blow. And it takes another 9 months before Shoya's Sisterhood team can pick up bin Laden's trail again. This time, the intelligence on his location is much more precise. The Sisterhood learn the exact dates bin Laden is staying at a home in Kandahar, in southern Afghanistan. They're confident this time he won't escape a hit. A mission request is put to the president.
Third week of May in 1999, for example, for 5 consecutive nights we knew what building he was staying in Kandahar, and yet they chose not to shoot.
President Clinton pulls the operation. The Kandahar home is next to a mosque. Innocent worshippers may be injured. Clinton is not prepared to risk international condemnation. An internal CIA email sent by Mike Shoya states he is sure they'll regret not acting.
The common sense part was a little bit offended, I think, in that we had a man who declared war on us in 1996, wasn't sure that we heard him, did it again in February of 1998, and we still had a government that was really paying no attention.
The CIA continues to place mission plans in front of the president.
Between May of 98 and May of 99, we had 10 opportunities. 2 opportunities to capture him and 8 different opportunities to use the US military, either through missiles or fixed-wing aircraft to kill him. But we had 10 opportunities.
Each time, White House advisors assess them as simply too risky to act upon, but the Alex Station team aren't about to give up. Using surveillance drones and voice recognition software, the Sisterhood track bin Laden down once more. He's at a notorious training camp near Kandahar in Afghanistan. The camp offers training in constructing bombs and in assassination techniques. Jihadis are being prepared to serve as suicide bombers. Some sent around the world to enroll in commercial flight training. Something big is being planned. This time the Sisterhood are determined to get the president to act. They assure him there will be no risk of collateral damage. Because now the CIA has a new weapon in their armory. A high-tech, remotely operated drone that's armed. They plan to guide a precision bomb into the heart of bin Laden's lair. The president gives the go-ahead. But it's winter. And the weather is now so hostile in Afghanistan that the operation must be put on hold until spring. But before then, matters are taken out of the CIA's hands. A new president is sworn in. And George W. Bush has a different focus.
Mr. Bush, and to some extent all of the presidents since Mr. Reagan, were brought up in the Cold War era.
They always come into office with a worldview and they're going to accomplish certain things. And then you hit them with something that they had no idea about. And really not many people had an idea about it. And they've somehow got to integrate that into their presidency. That is not easy at all. It takes at least 10 years to get people to come around to understanding that you have a new problem.
They had a very hard time thinking that a 6'4" skinny Saudi who wore a turban and ate goat in the desert could be a threat to the United States. When they were lining up threats to consider, they thought about China and Russia and Iran and narcotics, not this goofy Saudi. And we were crippled to some extent by our view of terrorism at that time.
Despite multiple warnings from multiple security agencies requesting action, none are able to pinpoint an immediate or specific threat. Without this information, the Bush administration feels it can't justify taking bin Laden out. It refuses to reauthorize the CIA's proposed drone strike. In the spring of 2001, bin Laden, now in his 6th year of hiding, once again slips through Alex Station's grasp. As the tone of the intelligence chatter the team is monitoring takes a dramatic turn.
And then we started to see something that was clearly something else. And the chatter, we were hearing things like Armageddon, and you know you're fighting against time, and you know that people are going to die.
Every morning, 6 days a week, the CIA briefs the president on matters of national security.
If you see this disaster coming, you want to try to stop it.
By the summer of 2001, Shoya's team are briefing that a significant attack is being planned on home soil. But they can't be more specific than that.
So at the time, they really just wanted to know who's going to blow me up when, and can we stop it in time, right? And unfortunately, that's the thing that you almost can never do.
You had the Alex Station, this bin Laden unit, working away, at trying to find bin Laden. But it was also regarded by many inside the agency as this odd collection of fanatics who were so preoccupied with an individual who didn't deserve that much attention. I think there was a lot of skepticism at the time over whether that effort was really worth it, and whether their view of his significance was out of whack, was imbalanced.
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the best in that you're working with an equally dedicated group of people who are doggedly determined, and you really have to have that bulldog mentality. You're going to shake it until you get the answers, right? But it was also the worst in that, you're trying to explain to people a new emerging issue that completely violates all of their mindsets.
Somehow, they have to convince the president to act. The CIA director requests a non-scheduled meeting with the president. Instead, he gets National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice. He advises her to go on a war footing immediately. A month later, security analysts meet with the president at his vacation home in Texas. The now declassified president's daily brief reveals the CIA think bin Laden's supporters may already be in the US, plotting an attack. Without a precise who, where, or when, President Bush feels there's no target he can strike. Senior national security advisors meet for a briefing. They too see no precise information they can act upon. It's a Tuesday morning in New York. Thousands are working, visiting, shopping at the jewel and the crown of the business district, the World Trade Center. Hijacked American Airlines Flight 11 strikes between the 93rd and 99th floors of World Trade Center Tower 1. The damage destroys all means of escape above the impact zone. 1,344 people are trapped. All will die. It's 17 minutes after the first impact. The second plane strikes the south tower between the 77th and 85th floors. Two more planes are hijacked. One hits the Pentagon. The other crashes before it reaches its Washington target. In under an hour, nearly 3,000 people are dead. It's the worst terrorist atrocity in US history, and the kind of tragedy the CIA have been warning of since the Manhunt began. Now the search for bin Laden will be kicked into a high gear.
But, at that time, most of us really didn't know what Al-Qaeda was. If you had asked us, who runs Al-Qaeda, what is Al-Qaeda, where is Al-Qaeda, we would have been hard-pressed to answer all of those questions on that day. It changed dramatically, so quickly for us.
At Alex Station, they feel the frustration of having seen it all coming.
When those planes hit on 9/11, we had known they were going to do that, not that specific day or that specific target, but that medium of operation. The plan they had for sending Arabs to the United States to be trained for driving 747s into US facilities. They intended to do that since at least 1995.
The Sisterhood feel a terrible sense of responsibility for not being able to prevent the tragedy.
I think looking back, it's easy to forget that in the fall of 2001, America had suffered the equivalent of a national nervous breakdown. That the eyes and ears of the American eagle, the first line of defense against terrorism, the first line of the war against Al-Qaeda, had failed to protect America.
Within days, President Bush makes his feelings known.
I want justice. And there's an old poster out west, as I recall, that said, "Wanted, dead or alive."
It marks a crucial turning point in the relationship between the Bush administration and the CIA's bin Laden team.
After 2001, Osama bin Laden became the most wanted man in human history. No one has been pursued by so many people as Osama bin Laden was.
The world turned upside down on 9/11. I mean, the next day it was anything you want from Congress, from everywhere, anything you want, request whatever you want. We took whole branches from other parts of the agency and expanded rapidly by a factor of like 7.
And very quickly, the CIA develops a plan. The war on terror roars into life. Operation Enduring Freedom is the invasion of Afghanistan. The aim? To overthrow the Taliban regime and flush out Osama bin Laden. It's the first time in American history a war has been launched explicitly to take down a terrorist organization. At the vanguard of the fight, with the Special Forces, are highly trained covert CIA operatives. As bin Laden's supporters, the Taliban, fall, undercover CIA agents intercept communications. Bin Laden is traced to the remote caves of Tora Bora along Afghanistan's mountainous eastern border. US Special Forces and a crack team of CIA Special Operations paramilitaries have bin Laden cornered.
We were so close to bin Laden in the last days of 2001. We could hear him on his radio. We knew that he was a mile, 2 miles away.
But the US military takes a strategic decision, an act of diplomacy. They allow their Afghan allies to take the lead in capturing bin Laden and hand over responsibility to 2 local commanders. It's a move the CIA's Alex station warns against.
We did the traces on the names of the Afghan commanders for our people who were in the field, and we found out that both of them had fought alongside of Osama bin Laden against the Soviets. So what we did was say simply to the military, here's the guys you picked, here's their records, here's their associations, they're not going to do what you want.
The CIA is proved right. The Afghan commanders allow Osama bin Laden to disappear across the lawless border with Pakistan.
We didn't know whether this man was in Pakistan or Pennsylvania. He was gone, missing in action.
I don't think the CIA or the military had any idea that how difficult it would be to apprehend this guy.
With bin Laden on the run, the White House begins to shift priorities. Resources are diverted to the war looming in Iraq and away from the hunt for bin Laden.
President Bush would start to talk about, well, wherever he is, he's on the run, he's hiding in a cave, he doesn't matter. Which wasn't true. Of course he mattered.
After 2001 was when we took our eye off the ball. We began chasing other bad guys in another desert in Iraq and didn't give the priority we needed to the hunt for Osama bin Laden.
For the CIA's Sisterhood, the next few years are the lost years. Bin Laden is now so skilled in tradecraft that there are few good leads. He even taunts the CIA, releasing video recordings from mystery locations. With little new progress, in late 2005, the CIA closes down Alex Station altogether.
There were a lot of knives out for it organizationally, that it was a source of heartburn for a lot of traditional people. And frankly, it offended a lot of the old boys that so many women were involved. One of the chiefs of the counter-terrorism center called them the Manson family because he thought they were too obsessed and too dedicated. There was a large degree of animosity directed at some of those women simply because they were women.
There is now only minor support for the pursuit of America's most wanted. But a change of administration will bring greater resources and a renewed focus in the hunt for Osama bin Laden. The CIA's director receives a memo from the new president, Barack Obama. Bring Osama bin Laden to justice.
From the day he came into office, in January 2009, he told his national security team, and especially his director of Central Intelligence, Leon Panetta, your most important responsibility is to find Osama bin Laden and either capture or kill him.
the CIA assembles a team of experts, many other women of the original Sisterhood. They dust off the files and get to work. They start by reanalyzing why they'd been unsuccessful in tracking him down before. They realize they can't trace bin Laden's phone conversations or emails because he had abandoned all electronic communication. But then, the CIA team have a breakthrough. What if they can turn bin Laden's strength into his weakness?
We knew he didn't communicate electronically, therefore he had to have a courier. And if you started to figure out who that courier might be and look around the people who'd been with bin Laden all his life and who were still alive, then you narrowed it down to a relatively small number of potential figures.
The team has a mission. To find bin Laden, they have to first identify his courier, then track him down. In Afghanistan, CIA operatives interview every potential source of information in their custody. At top-secret black sites the world over, they interrogate every high-value prisoner. And in Camp Delta at the Guantanamo Bay Naval Base in Cuba, every inmate with a link to bin Laden is questioned. Nobody can or will reveal the courier's name. But then the analysts begin to notice a pattern. Many high-level prisoners are at pains to downplay the significance of one name in particular. A man they refer to as Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. The CIA begins to think the prisoners are downplaying this man for a reason. Perhaps al-Kuwaiti is highly significant after all. A CIA team on the ground in Pakistan intercepts al-Kuwaiti's calls. They track him to a small town of Abbottabad, home to an elite Pakistani military academy, and just 30 miles north of the capital, Islamabad.
It was a relatively simple matter of following him until sooner or later he began to detect a pattern of behavior.
Al-Kuwaiti's behavior patterns are strange. He's behaving like a man who doesn't want to be followed, retracing his steps, using his phone only in certain areas. To the CIA surveillance team, they're classic signs of tradecraft, and exactly how they'd expect bin Laden's courier to act. But they can't tell for sure. The surveillance team have to dig into al-Kuwaiti's past. Local sources confirm that in 2004, al-Kuwaiti buys land on the outskirts of Abbottabad. He commissions an architect to build $1 million two-story compound for a family of 12. It's the sprawling one-acre complex they see him visit.
Very high walls, very difficult to see in.
But al-Kuwaiti is not wealthy and does not have a large family. And there's more.
It had no electrical signature, there was no internet, there was no telephone system.
A third story of the building isn't even on the original plans. Its design makes the CIA analysts suspicious.
It was self-sufficient, it grew much of its own food, it destroyed its own garbage. It was a safe haven, a sanctuary.
To the CIA, the compound's residents were going to extraordinary lengths to hide something. They begin to wonder if the something the residents are hiding is the man the CIA have been tracking for over a decade and a half, Osama bin Laden. The team on the ground also knows the White House won't act without a positive identification of bin Laden. They try every surveillance trick they know to catch a glimpse of the man in the compound, but get nowhere.
Even after the CIA followed the couriers to that compound, his security was still so sound that they never got a glimpse of him. And it was mainly because of his willingness, the discipline that he showed in not ever being on the internet and sending messages out, not ever making cell phone calls, not venturing outside this compound.
After weeks of round-the-clock surveillance, the CIA's dedication pays off. A tall man is spotted walking in the walled kitchen garden. Bin Laden is 6'4". The man doesn't stay outside for long and is careful to shelter under a tarpaulin. It's as if he knows not to expose himself to spy satellites or drones.
They called him the pacer at the CIA because they only saw this sort of tall, shadowy figure pacing behind this wall.
Despite the mounting circumstantial evidence, the CIA cannot positively identify the mystery man. Even so, they decide to take their findings to President Obama.
There was significant uncertainty in the CIA and in the White House over whether they were going to find him there. And the degree of uncertainty depended on who you asked. They sort of went around the table in these national security meetings, and senior officials would put different numbers on it. It would range anywhere from 50% to 90%. Nobody thought that the odds were 100%.
The best the CIA could say to the president was it's 55-45, that Osama bin Laden is in this compound. This was the only real lead we'd had on Osama bin Laden. He could have been hiding on the moon as far as the American intelligence community knew.
President Obama weighs the odds and gives the CIA permission to plan a raid. Now, more than ever, the CIA needs a surefire plan. Crucially, they need a plan that takes into account the pacer may not be bin Laden after all. A bombing mission is ruled out. Forensic evidence to prove the mystery man's identity would be vaporized. They need eyes on to confirm the pacer's identity face to face. There is only one real option. They propose a helicopter raid involving the best of the Special Forces, SEAL Team 6. It's a daring proposal. The CIA takes their plan to President Obama.
What he was presented with was an opportunity to do what Mr. Clinton should have done 10 times, what Mr. Bush had a chance to do once.
These CIA officials could argue, well, this may be the best chance we have. Do you remember these other chances that we had that we passed on before the September 11 attacks? Do you want to be the president who passes on this chance? And that's a pretty compelling argument.
President Obama gives the go-ahead. 15 years after the manhunt began, a date for the raid to capture or kill Osama bin Laden is set. May the 1st, 2011. Codename, Operation Neptune Spear. 24 members of Navy SEAL Team 6 are temporarily transferred to the CIA's command. No one officially designated as military will cross into Pakistani airspace. The White House does not want to trigger a war with Pakistan. At 2300 hours, the SEALs' stealth Black Hawk helicopters take off. Destination, the Abbottabad compound in Pakistan. The target, Osama bin Laden, America's most wanted. a man who has eluded the CIA for over a decade and a half. There is no turning back. Navy SEAL Team 6 are about to touch down in the compound. It's 0:30, a military term for 30 minutes past midnight. Just as they're preparing to fast rope down to the compound, one of the pilots hits serious trouble and loses lift. To save his crew and the mission, the pilot pulls off a daring emergency landing. Instantly, the SEALs adapt their mission plan. They storm the compound from the ground. The first SEAL team encounter bin Laden's courier. A second SEAL team find the courier's brother and his wife. Inside, a man identified as Osama bin Laden's son is also killed. On the third floor of the main building, the SEALs encounter the man the CIA call the Pacer. Five seconds later, the team leader radios a message. Geronimo, the code word for bin Laden. EKIA, enemy killed in action. Osama bin Laden is dead.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
From touchdown to mission completion, the 38 minutes in the Abbottabad compound draws to a close the most extensive and expensive manhunt in history. For the CIA's Mike Scheuer, it's been a long journey, but one ending in victory.
I was, of course, delighted that he was dead. He was a very serious enemy of the United States.
And it's a victory too for the Sisterhood team Scheuer first set up in 1995, 6 years before 9/11.
We achieved all of the things that we were assigned to do. Not to my credit, but to the credit of the officers that worked for me, because they were truly extraordinary at what they do.
The determination of the CIA analysts' painstaking scrutiny of 15 years of intelligence gathering finally pays off to bring Osama bin Laden to justice.